Normally this is a work session date, but this is the budget introduction to a regular open meeting. I'll ask our auditor, Mr. Wilcox, to lead us in the flag salute.
Mr. Lonegan.
Here.
Councilmember Cynthia.
Here.
Here. Vice Chairman.
Here.
Person.
Here.
Here.
Okay. Our main item of business tonight is introduction to 2004 operating budget. This is introduction for a public hearing for April 15th, and the budget, $6,298,000, up approximately $130 in spending from last year, really constitutes a minimum tax increase. And one of the reasons we're willing to do that is really greatly due to the work of the department heads in all the departments in controlling spending last year and the year before, finishing the year with a reasonable surplus, and the borough's discipline in the sale of the riverfront property and the dedication of those funds to debt reduction and reducing the green acres loan over the next 3 years. So I think we're pretty stable. So at this time, Mr. Wilcox would like to step up and maybe give us an overview and answer any questions so we can introduce.
Hey, thank you. I'll sit right where I am.
No, you look good there.
As you said, the budget is roughly $6.3 million, up about $135,000 from last year in terms of appropriations. The tax levy for this introduced budget is up about $18,000, which is about a third of the tax point. I don't know what else I could say other than there's been some discussion, a number of discussions between the Finance Committee and the department heads and what have you. We sat, we dealt with the budget submitted by the department heads at the Finance Committee level. This is what the Finance Committee came up with. The bottom line is an increase in taxes of about a third of a tax point.
And same surplus used as last year.
About 7,000 less, but roughly the same.
Right. And the reserve fund tax is at 3%.
$300,000, same as last year.
No spending reductions. So if there's no opposition, we'll have a public hearing on April 15th. I'd like to introduce this budget. Obviously, there's amendment period at the end if there's any necessary amendments. So motion from Councilman Zincretti, second from Councilman Shalhoub. Fran, please call the roll.
Councilmember Santilli.
Yes.
Kern. Yes. Vice Chairman.
Yes.
Martinez.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Schmidt. Yes.
So adopted. The hearing will be April 15th. Mr. Wilcox, you're done. Thank you for coming all the way from Wayne for that.
Wow.
Nice haircut, you want that now.
We want to talk a bit about it. Our next item of business, maybe you can
Sure,
stick around
time.
for a moment, Steve, all right?
Sure.
Because I want to talk about a capital ordinance. We have a number of grants that need to be placed into an appropriation ordinance. We have $400,000 for the bridge over the railroad tracks, which is in the engineering phase still. That needs to be put into an appropriation ordinance. We have another $150,000 for Main Street Phase 4, plus the borough's contribution of about $25,000. We have the $70-something thousand for renovations to the police station, which needs to be placed into a reappropriation ordinance. And then we may want to do some capital, which we should discuss and try to introduce our capital ordinance next week, so we can get our capital ordinance in place, right? The question I have for you is we just received a $100,000 CD grant for curbs and sidewalks on River Road, which we're not going to get awarded probably until May or June. If we introduce a capital ordinance, that $100,000 requires no contribution from the borough. Can we insert it in the budget later in the year and spend it rather than doing a reappropriation
We have
ordinance?
two options. You can either do it, once the budget's adopted, you can insert it in the budget, or you can do just a capital ordinance that appropriates just the grant in the capital budget, in the capital section.
Okay,
6 of one, half dozen the other.
that's my question. So,
What are the pros and cons of the options?
Councilman, it really doesn't matter. It's a resolution inserting in the budget for after it's adopted, or if the approval comes before April 15th, we could amend the budget to put it in the budget before we adopt it. Or you do a simple capital ordinance to appropriate it in the capital fund.
Whatever's cheaper, basically, because there's no borough contribution, that's, you know.
It's probably the least expensive to do, if you're gonna amend the budget anyway, to put it in the budget before April 15th.
We also got $15,000 for the bus driver. Did you insert that in this budget? Do you know that?
No, it's not.
So that's 15,000 additional revenue, so
So we can do that via the amendment to the budget before we adopt the budget April 15th. If the 100,000 is, if we have approval of that before April 15th, we can include that as part of the budget amendment.
so that reduces the tax levy increase to almost nothing.
If that 15,000 is appropriated someplace else in the budget, yes.
Yeah, bus, it is. All right. Thank you. All right, next item of business. While we're on the capital ordinance, okay? We have a lot of projects working, and we need to talk about them, but I don't know if we want to add any others, but there might be some street paving to look at. Particularly, I think, South Street is in pretty bad shape now, right? Is that South Street? That I was on with Rob the other day. We are in the... But we also have a grant application for West Fortley Road with DOT. I mean, we've got a major curb project, we've got the bridge, the jogging track, and we need to move the police station renovations. I don't know if we need to take on any more capital projects, personally. Right? Main Street Phase 4, that's a lot. Okay. So I guess everybody agrees. Next item of business on the agenda. Any new business? Councilman Burns? No. Any new business?
There are closed session matters.
Do we have to vote on the resolutions? As part of it? Did you take the vote?
They voted on the budget, yes.
But there's no resolution to have it.
Mr. Wilcox is excused, he's waiting.
Page 2 is the resolution.
Could we as audience members get a copy of the agenda?
Yeah.
The motion, just to be safe, this is a resolution to advertise. All right? All right. Attorney, we're all set with that?
Not yet. They never have.
If there's no other new business, at this time, we'll open to the public if there's any issues of discussion. Would anyone care to comment for the good and welfare of the borough? Greg Lynch? Mr. Lynch?
Sir, ladies and gentlemen of the council, I have a couple of questions about a Bergen Record newspaper article dated Wednesday, February 25th, 2004.
Mr. Lynch, this is for comments. You make whatever comments you like.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
Is that all right? Am I okay? Okay. Anyways, a couple of passages from a couple of quotes in the newspaper article that I'd just like to ensure, get the feeling of the council. I just want to know if it's a consensus amongst the council that the council is concerned that the police officers are not doing their duty. If that's a consensus amongst the council, because that was one of the quotes of the article. The other is, and these are pretty much rhetorical, I just want to get them out there. Another quote from you, Mr. Mayor, is if a police officer is found to be goofing off, we're going to do something about it. A couple of follow-up rhetorical questions would be, what if a council member is goofing off? Will something be done about that? Also, do you consider procuring funds, equipment, and modifying a patrol vehicle without the knowledge and authorization of the mayor, without a vote of the council, and without the knowledge or authorization of the police chief? Would you consider that goofing off? And if so, will something be done about it? The next thing is real quick. There was a complaint entered, a letter forwarded to the chief concerning Officer Petersky pulled over a vehicle the other day, I believe, that had an equipment violation that Mr. Sapelsa was driving. Apparently he was just awarded a borough position for $4,000 a year, and he's also doing some work in Borough Hall. He wasn't given a summons, he was given verbal warning, and he had an equipment violation on his vehicle. He wasn't given a summons. So another question to you would be, what's the story with forwarding a letter to the chief, like there's some type of impropriety on the part of Officer Petersky? The next thing would be the idea of the 40 miles per shift in the fleet management tool. Initially, we were told that brake wear, tire wear, abuse of the vehicles, we need a fleet management tool to monitor that and to see what officers are driving the cars too hard. And in that sense, we're not putting enough miles on the car. We're not patrolling enough. So I just want to know if the council is in agreement on that, if that's the entire council. It's been an unwritten rule, to my knowledge, in the 14 years I've been here, 40 miles per shift is the guideline. Few below, few above, that's kind of what we go with. If that's not good enough, why is that not good enough in the last month? How come it wasn't good enough 14 years ago when I came on the job? Or 8 years ago when you came into office? It's been the same. Why is that a problem now, all of a sudden? That's another question. If you care to address, I understand that you said no questions, just comments. If you care to address any of those questions, that would be fine. If you don't, because it's only open for comments, I understand that also. But those are some things to think about, and those are some things to get on record. Last council meeting, you challenged anyone sitting out here to challenge your intellect. And if you truly are intellectual and honest and forthright, you know, I don't see why you wouldn't put a couple of answers on those questions. If you need me to, I'll recite them, but like you said, if you refuse to take any questions, you're not going to do it regardless of what I said. But there's inconsistencies in this story, Mr. Mayor. Are we putting too many miles on the car and destroying the brakes and tires? Do you need a fleet management system? Or are we not putting enough miles on the car and we're goofing off? All right, residents are concerned. Residents are concerned now in the last 30 days. Residents were concerned in 1990 or 1995 or 1998. Our practices haven't changed. So, you know, there's just some inconsistencies here that we would like addressed as a group. You're going to choose whether you're going to address them or not. I can't, one way or another, I can't affect that. But it is something to think about. And if you would care to answer any of those questions, we would appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you for your input.
Ladies and gentlemen, I do appreciate a chance to speak.
All right, anyone care to comment? Any other comments from the public? Gentleman in the front row, yes, sir.
My name is William Brenner. I live at 79 Woods Road in Little Falls, New Jersey, and I represent FOP Lot 161. And I just want to point out that it's...
I'm sorry, for the record, in what capacity?
I'm a business agent, for the record. It's in accordance with the correspondence that Mr. Zampetti got. Nonetheless, I want to point out that... You okay? I want to point out that your
I'm
policy
sorry,
change...
I didn't hear what you said.
I said, are you okay?
I'm okay, are you okay?
Great.
Okay.
Now we're having an
So I'm
exchange like
okay,
that.
I'm
This is
okay.
progress.
I
We
feel
can
the
talk to each other.
Yeah, this is terrific.
Okay.
I feel the warmth in the air, my heart is just fluttering.
Unbelievable.
I find it remarkable that you change your policy on having a public discourse as soon as the Federal Order of Police has a representative in the room. And I don't think that that's appropriate. Nonetheless, I want to talk to you about some discrepancies. I want to talk to you about one of your quotes. You said the software was never purchased by the borough, nor was it in the possession of Sam Petty. The time now? Does anybody have the time? The mayor would like
Yeah,
the time.
it's 10 to 8.
It's about 10 to 8.
I may have to leave in a moment, so I'm sorry,
Okay.
so speed it up.
No problem at all. I'll go as fast or as slow as you want. I'll repeat the question because you seem to be changing the
I am
subject.
having trouble hearing you.
Well, I can speak louder if you
No,
like.
louder, please. Can anybody hear the gentleman?
I can hear him from here.
I can hear him fine.
Good.
Are you done now?
Are you?
No, I'm having
There are
fun.
other
You're
people that would
interrupting.
like to speak.
Apparently you. In the meantime, did you say the software was never purchased by the borough, nor was it in the possession of Sam
I don't
Petty?
recall, sir.
You don't recall saying that? So the
I can
burden
for
record
you.
may or may not have misquoted you on
That
that.
happens occasionally.
It does, I'm sure. Well, I have a document here that appears to bear your signature. And
It's a requisition, sir.
You can see this from there?
No.
Because I'm not holding a requisition.
Okay.
And this document that appears to bear your signature is dated February 9, 2004. And it says, please note that this amount exceeds state requirements for quotes and that funds were not properly authorized by the Borough Council. As per our agreement, we shall be returning the equipment to you at no charge to the borough. Now, I don't know whether or not this gentleman agreed to install software and remove equipment and do all these things at no charge to the borough. But by virtue of the fact you shall be returning the equipment, that would seem to be contradictory or in conflict with something that you said to the Bergen record, that you may or may not have said regarding was it in the possession of Zampetti and never purchased. And I'm wondering...
Okay,
if you
this is
could
not a
direct-
cross-examination,
I'm
sir.
wondering-
If you have a comment for the good and welfare of the borough, please make it. We're going to move along.
I'm making comments. I'm commenting on, there's discrepancies here, and if you're not going to comment, then I'm pointing out there's a discrepancy between what you said to the Bergen record and what you wrote.
I'm going to do
And
better
so
than
you
that.
did.
I'm going to leave.
Okay.
Have a nice meeting. I'll turn the gavel over to Mr. Zampetti,
All
and
right.
I'm going to go home and have dinner.
Thank
It's
you.
a pleasure to meet you, sir.
Get
Dinner?
better.
Dinner. Glad to see you fulfill your duties.
Good evening, Mr. Brennan.
Now,
Let me, yes, sir.
Before you begin, would you ask whoever's in the audience to shut up?
Could all the cell phones be shut off, everybody's? And if anybody has a pager, please put it on vibrate.
I've got mine on, first thing I normally come in.
I think this was opened up for public comment. This is not a matter for inquiries right now, okay? So if you have comments, we'll give you 2 minutes, and that'll be it, and we'll let somebody else speak. All right, Mr. President?
Excuse me, before you go on, is there going to...
Excuse me, we will speak to the rest of the public at an appropriate time, all right, Mr.
I
Crean?
just have a quick question.
I choose not to recognize you at the moment, all right, sir?
Very good.
all right. This is going wonderfully. Mr. Zampetti, you received a bid quote, or a quote for this particular fleet management system back in December.
I don't think that's a comment, okay?
Well,
Seems to me...
your opinion
it's a
on what
question.
is a comment and what isn't is irrelevant.
All right.
But I'm going to
Well,
ask you a
yeah, it
question.
is.
now. I'm making a statement.
Okay.
And I'm pointing out for the record that you received a quote in December of 2003, and that quote was in the amount of $2,953. Subsequent to that, you took it upon yourself to have installed in a patrol vehicle a fleet management system, as you call it, commonly known as the Global Positioning System, Satellite System, Tracking System. And that system was installed in a car, and you were trained on it, and the software was installed in your personal computer. Now, after that was done, you signed a requisition, and I have a copy of it, and that requisition did not say $2,953. That requisition said $2,500 and something dollars, or $2,400. Conveniently, what was on the quote and what ended up on the requisition happened to fall below the minimum threshold for the requirement that you get an additional quote. Now, Mr. Lonegan ran out of the room. Now, he didn't want to be put in a position back on February 5th when this was brought to his attention. Somebody said, he said, don't put me in that position. He put himself in the position. And now, he's putting you in a position to take action on what is clearly a violation of the public contracts law. Beyond the public contracts law, as a point of information, if you have an attorney here, they'll help you with this.
Thank you, I recognize it.
New Jersey statutes under 40A 14-118, they empower you to do nothing with respect to the Borough Police Department. You have a chief of police. He shall be responsible for the day-to-day operations of the department, and he shall be the head of the department. You have a borough
There are
ordinance.
limits to the chief's Bill of Rights, Mr. Brennan. I don't take you as anywhere near an authority relative to the operation of the police department or, in fact, functioning as a VA. There is a
Okay.
letter in response to one of your positions as to a right for me to forward information as it deals with the conduct of the police officers that you tell me you represent that tells you you're totally off base, Mr. Brennan.
That's not
Right? You've got 30 seconds more.
In the
Let's
meantime, you
go.
have a borough ordinance that appoints you as a liaison.
No, it doesn't, sir.
All right, if you keep interrupting me, I'm going to...
I'll extend you another 2 seconds,
Thank you.
okay?
It says
Read
here,
it.
I'll quote,
Read it so that you can come here and speak clearly, correctly, and
I'm going to read
confidently,
it into
sir.
the record. The police committee shall serve as a liaison between the police department and the governing body and shall have the powers and duties described by this ordinance. This ordinance describes no other power and duty other than liaison. Now, if you're going to take action,
It does,
that
sir.
set policy.
Okay.
If you're going to set policy, you have to do it at an open public meeting.
You
And
have
this is
5
the
more
forum.
seconds, sir?
I find it
And in
remarkable that
sum-
you have suddenly chosen to
In
inhibit.
summation,
In summation, I'm not finished. And
Well-
you've given everybody else who's come before you ample time. And selective enforcement of a rule is also a violation of the
Well,
Constitution.
then, as you're able to do, send in a grievance, make a complaint, take whatever course you feel you're entitled to or appropriate, sir,
Are
okay?
you inviting that? Is that what you wish
I'm
to
telling you,
happen?
you've got every right any other citizen has within the provisions of the law,
Apparently
okay?
not. Other citizens come here and aren't limited to a time period. You don't want to hear what I have to say,
This-
and it's solely based on the content of my speech, and now you're ready to cut me off. And I've watched videotape on videotape of you letting people stand here and talk.
I don't run these meetings, I am not the chair
I
in
know,
most
the
cases,
chair ran
sir.
away, now you're
So,
running.
since I'm now the chair, this is my policy, first time, sir. You're over? Thank you. Mr. Crayons, you want to speak?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Are you going to be able to answer them, or is it just going to be?
This is not a question and answer session. If you
Is
want
this,
to-
is
if you
this a
want to come
regular
forward.
council meeting? No, because,
This is a work session, sir.
so it's not a council
He
meeting.
just said it wasn't a work session at the beginning of the meeting. Yes, he
did.
He did. Right in the
Well, I-
beginning of the
He
meeting.
said it was normally a work session, but
If-
tonight's not
if
going to be
I-
a work session. He said tonight's going to be a council meeting.
That's what he said.
I'll play it
Our
back if you
bylaws
like.
provide that we can conduct business such as we did for the introduction of the budget at a work session, and that's really what was intended to be spoken publicly, okay?
It's not what the mayor
Cannot
said.
change, doesn't change. Look at the calendar as established in January 1st. This is a work session.
Could we have
Would
a
you like to
copy of the
speak, sir?
agenda, please?
I'll ask the clerk if she would provide you with some. I did not have an extra copy.
They're supposed to be out here.
The Open Public Meetings Act requires that they be posted and available.
They're supposed to be downstairs in the
No, it's not.
In the office.
Supposed to be in the public hallway.
Just went down and checked. Yeah, I have a quick
Could
question.
you please come forward?
Do I need to?
No. You're
Oh,
comfortable from there.
I'm very comfortable. First question I have is, I'm out on sick leave due to recent surgery, and I was just instructed I had to see a doctor regarding my injury or my surgery, and supposedly, according to the letter, the order came from you. Is that correct?
I had a discussion with the chief requesting that you do in fact see the borough doctor. That's correct.
Okay, has he been sworn in as the borough doctor or appointed as the borough doctor?
We've been using him as the borough
Doesn't
doctor.
answer the
Since when?
question.
Past couple of months.
It was a yes or no question.
What's that?
Is he
Yes or no
appointed?
question, was he appointed?
Was he appointed as the, at a council meeting?
Let me retract everything, okay? This is not a Q&A session. I didn't afford you the opportunity, Dan.
I asked you if I could
I
ask a
am
couple of
not
questions.
answering Q&As, okay?
Did you send me to a doctor?
I answered your question, sir, and that is all I will answer.
Okay, you say it's a borough doctor. Is he trained or is he qualified to diagnose what I had done?
Just think that hard.
Oh, you're not gonna answer, you're just gonna stare?
He's a more rhetorical question, I assume, that's okay.
Rhetorical.
Does the
Well,
cost,
it's a,
does the cost
you know
exceed?
what, we could either act like adults or we could act like children. You know, and I've never been disrespectful to anyone here.
Nobody says you are, Dan.
Okay, but in turn, you're being disrespectful to me. If you have an answer, you should be able to provide it to me.
I don't have an answer for you. How's that?
So you don't know if he was voted upon at a meeting to be the borough doctor?
See, now you're going beyond. I am not
And-
going to respond to your question.
And I wanted, well, that's what I'm saying. We can't have an intelligent conversation where you...
If you want to have a closed session meeting with this board subsequently, I believe...
No, what I would like to know is just how it came up.
Okay? We will
I
have a
would just
closed
like
session
to
meeting
know-
if you want to stay and have a closed session discussion.
That wouldn't be
with this council.
appropriate.
I would like to know how it came to point to send me to the doctor.
So that I treat everybody fairly, you're running close to your 2 minutes already.
So you don't have an answer? Or you just refuse to answer?
I choose not to answer.
That wasn't the answer I was looking for.
Well,
Do
I'm
you have
sorry
an
that
answer?
you...
Let him go. Let him go. He just showed his colors. You've seen him.
No, I'm not done yet. I'm really-
Well, he's not... I'll hold my mouth.
No, go right ahead. Say what you have to.
It's got nothing to do with you, Dan. I was going to respond to Mr. Brennan, but that's okay.
You can do that too.
Thank you.
You know, I'll give you the
I
time.
appreciate that.
It's only a couple minutes. I have all night.
There you go.
Excuse me a second, excuse me a second.
Excuse me,
The other
Mr.
councilman-
Shalhoub,
May
Mr.
I
Shalhoub.
ask, I'm good through the chair.
Well, I will recognize you, Mr. Shalhoub, all right?
I just-
Excuse me, Judge.
Respect, Mr. with 3 inches speaking, and let whoever's here keep their comments to
Mr.
themselves.
Shalhoub,
I have a hearing problem, I can't hear what 3 inches is
Okay.
saying.
Mr. Shalhoub, you wanted to be recognized?
I'd like to be recognized, and I'd like you to ask the audience to respect who's ever speaking, not laugh, not comment, not say anything. I think
Mr.
that's
Shalhoub.
respect to the balance of the people in the audience, Mr. Grant.
Well, I think
Well, if
maybe...
you're going to address me, sir, then I will respond to you. And I feel that...
Mr. Brennan, please, okay? I think there's
Mr. Lonegan, I mean, Mr. Zampetti, if the gentleman's going to address me, then
Excuse me,
he is
Mr.
out of order.
I will handle it, sir, okay? I think